My brother got my fiancée pregnant. They laughed about me behind my back. And now my family expects me to raise his child. I'm 32. I was engaged to Kay, 29, for 3 years. We lived together, and I already have a 4-year-old son from a previous relationship. Things weren't perfect, but I thought we were okay. I had this image in my head of how life would go. My son finally getting a sibling, and me getting another chance to build the family I always wanted. You know, the simple stuff most men hope for. Then, 3 weeks ago, Kay told me she was pregnant. At first, I was thrilled. I thought this was the next chapter, the moment everything would fall into place. Instead, the pregnancy pushed her away. The day after she told me, she started acting different. Quiet, distant, always on her phone. I tried to be patient. Maybe she needed time to process it. I gave her space, because that's what you do, right? But that space turned into long nights, unanswered questions, and her phone face down on silent. Every time I asked how she felt about the baby, she answered with a single vague word. Like I was bothering her just by asking. My gut told me something was wrong, but I didn't want to believe it. I kept telling myself I was overthinking. Then one night changed everything. Kay left her laptop open while she showered. I'm not the kind of man who snoops, but when a message popped up with my brother's name, M, and a flirty emoji next to it, my stomach dropped. Curiosity won, and I opened the conversation. What I read froze me. They weren't just chatting. They'd been seeing each other for months. The messages were filthy plans for secret meets. Mocking texts about how clueless I was, jokes about how stupid I'd be not to see it. They even laughed about how I'd be the one left to raise 2 kids. And the worst part, Kay had told him about the pregnancy before she told me, sharing details she hadn't even said to me. I felt the ground give way under my feet. M, my older brother. The golden child had always been the charming, confident one who stole attention. I'd grown up living in his shadow, but this wasn't just favoritism. He'd crossed a line a brother never should. I spent the following days sleepless, swinging between fury, disbelief, and a raw hunger for revenge. I wasn't going to stay quiet and let them get away with it. They wanted to make me the fool. Fine. They wouldn't walk away clean. There was a family gathering at my parents'. I was the next day to celebrate Kay's pregnancy. The irony was brutal. That's where I decided to expose them out in the open. No private talks, no way to spin it. I gathered everything. Screenshots, timestamps, printed copies of the worst conversations. No gaps, no room for wriggling. I saved the evidence in a folder on my phone labeled evidence. I wasn't leaving anything to chance. When I pulled up at my parents' house, the party was already underway. Mom was in the kitchen prepping side dishes with Kay at her side. Seeing them together made my blood boil. Kay looked calm, comfortable, laughing at something my mom said while she'd been secretly destroying my life. My brother lounged on the living room couch like he owned the place, that arrogant smirk on his face. His confidence so close to cockiness almost made me snap then and there, but I held back. Not yet. I wanted witnesses. Dinner was served and we all sat at the table. My mom chatted excitedly about becoming a grandmother again, completely oblivious to the bomb I was about to drop. I checked my phone one last time, feeling the mixture of fear and adrenaline, like standing at the edge of a cliff, ready to jump, not knowing if I'd land. Tomorrow, I decided I would light the fuse. I wasn't planning on putting out the fire. Kay sat across from me, while M lounged a few seats down, eating like he didn't have a care in the world. Halfway through the meal, when the conversation died down, I knew it was time. I set down my fork, cleared my throat, and the room went quiet. My dad lowered his knife. My mom looked at me curiously. Kay shifted in her chair, and M leaned back with that bored look. For now, I need everyone's attention, I said. My voice steady, even though my heart was racing. There's something I need to share about Kay. And MK's eyes went wide, the color draining from her face. M straightened up, his cockiness slipping away. My mom looked confused. But my dad's jaw tightened. He knew this was serious. I've kept this to myself for weeks. But I can't anymore, I continued. Kay and M have been seeing each other behind my back. It didn't stop after our engagement, not even after Kay found out she was pregnant. The room exploded with gasps. My mom covered her mouth. My dad clenched his jaw. Kay looked ready to cry while M sat frozen, his face flickering between shock and anger. "I have proof," I said, pulling out my phone and opening the folder. "Here are their messages. Here's how they mocked me. They lied and cheated right under my nose." I scrolled, reading the worst ones out loud. Kay broke down, covering her face as she sobbed. "It's not what it looks like," she cried. "I didn't want this to happen." I laughed dryly. "You didn't want to get caught?" I shot back, pushing my chair away. "This is ridiculous," M said, arrogance seeping back into his voice. "We don't have to do this here." I stood to face him. "You don't get to decide where this happens. You betrayed me, and you thought I'd just let it slide. Not this time." Before anyone could react, M lunged and punched me in the shoulder. I barely felt it. Rage had numbed me. I swung back, landing a punch square on his jaw. Chaos broke out. My dad tried to pull us apart. My mom screamed for us to stop. "You ruined my life," I shouted, slamming him against the wall. "You had everything, Em. The family adored you. Still, you had to take what was mine." Blood dripped from his lip, but he smirked. "Maybe if you'd been man enough to make her happy, this wouldn't have happened." That was it. I swung again, but my dad shoved between us, forcing me back. "Enough," he roared. "Both of you, sit down." I stepped away, fists clenched, chest heaving. Kay sobbed uncontrollably. My mom was crying too, begging me to calm down. M wiped his mouth, smirking again, but kept silent this time. He knew better, I muttered. Then I turned to Kay, trembling in her seat. "It's over. I don't care about your excuses. Be with him if that's what you want. But don't expect me to be part of this ever again." Without waiting, I grabbed my phone and walked out. Kay's crying and my mom calling after me followed me out the door, but I didn't stop. I'd done what I came to do. The truth was out, and there was no undoing it. Driving home, adrenaline still surged through me. My heart pounded, my mind replaying everything, Kay's tear-stained face, M's smirk, my dad's hand stopping me before I landed another punch. None of it gave me relief. It all tasted bitter. When I got home, the house was empty. My son was at a friend's for the night. Normally, the quiet would feel like peace, but not this time. The silence pressed down on me. Just weeks ago, I was imagining a future with Kay and our baby. Now I wasn't even sure who she really was. My phone buzzed on the table. It was Kay. 3 messages in less than 5 minutes. "Please, we need to talk. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. Just give me a chance to explain." I ignored them. I wasn't ready for her excuses. Instead, I opened the folder on my phone, the one full of screenshots. Each message reminded me how they mocked me, how little they respected me. Anger bubbled up again, but I didn't let it take me over. I couldn't afford to break. I had a son who needed me. I had to stay strong for him. The next days blurred together. Work, picking up my boy from school. Pretending I wasn't thinking about Kay or MK, kept texting and leaving voicemails I wouldn't listen to. M stayed silent, probably nursing his pride after our fight. My mom called daily, begging me to meet them, to talk it out. But talk about what? They'd destroyed everything. No apology could fix that. 2 weeks later, Kay showed up at my doorstep. I wasn't expecting her, and for a moment I hesitated to even open the door. But the knocking kept going, and I didn't want to wake my son who was napping upstairs. With a heavy sigh, I unlocked it and pulled it open. Kay stood there, her eyes red and swollen, hair a mess like she hadn't slept in days. A crumpled tissue in one hand, a small bag in the other. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice trembling. I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorframe, looking her up and down with pure disdain. "What do you want?" I asked coldly. She sniffled, wiping her nose with the tissue. "Can we fix this, please? I know I messed up, but we can get through this for the baby." I almost laughed at how desperate she sounded, but the anger inside me wouldn't let me. "Fix this? Do you really think we can fix this?" I shook my head, stepped aside, and let her in. Fine. Say what you need to say. She walked past me, dropped her bag on the couch, and turned to face me. She looked terrified. Okay? When I found out I was pregnant, I panicked, and he was there, and I made a mistake, but it didn't mean anything. I love you, I scoffed. Love me. You sure have a funny way of showing it. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Do you know how long I spent replaying everything in my head, wondering how I could have been so blind? You didn't just cheat, Kai, you mocked me. You made me a joke. Her eyes filled with tears. She reached out to touch my arm, but I pulled away. I'm sorry, she whispered. Please don't do this. Don't throw everything away. I didn't throw anything away, I snapped. You did? And don't bring up the baby like it's some magic band-aid that's going to fix this. For all I know, that baby isn't even mine. Her face crumbled, and she shook her head over and over. It's yours. I swear. I didn't believe her. Then prove it, I said coldly. Get a paternity test. Until then, don't expect me to believe a single word you say. She broke down, crying so hard she could barely stay standing. I just watched. I couldn't comfort her. I had nothing left to give. After a few minutes, she wiped her face, grabbed her bag, and whispered, I'll get the test. Then she walked out. I closed the door behind her, locked it, and leaned my forehead against the wood. My hands shook, everything crashing down again, but I wouldn't let it show. I refused to give her that power. 3 days later, M showed up, banging on my door, just like Kay had. But this time, I was ready. When I opened it, he stood there with that same arrogant expression, like he thought he could talk his way out of anything. We need to talk, he said, trying to push his way in. I blocked him. No, we don't. I know about the paternity test, he said, ignoring me. Do you really think dragging this out will help you? My blood boiled. Dragging this out? You think I'm dragging this out? You're the one who slept with my fiancée. And you have the nerve to come here like everything's fine? He smirked, and that was all it took. I lunged at him, my fist crashing into his jaw. We stumbled onto the porch, trading blows, until a neighbor ran over to separate us. Get away from me, both of you. It's over, I shouted. M wiped the blood from his lip and let out a bitter laugh. You'll never really walk away, brother. Not with a child involved. I didn't answer. I just watched him leave, drive off, and disappear. He was wrong. I could walk away at least from the two of them. All I had to do now was wait for the results and decide my next step. The following weeks dragged by, ate every day, crawling like slow motion. I told myself I didn't care what the test said, that I was ready for anything. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. If the baby wasn't mine, I'd be free. If it was, it meant a lifetime of forced ties to K and always the shadow of M hanging around. I buried myself in work. My son became my anchor. Weekends were Lego towers, messy cookies, and endless animated movies. Those little moments reminded me I wasn't completely broken. Even if my world felt shattered, Kay tried contacting me over and over, but I ignored most of her messages. The ones I answered were only about logistics, doctor appointments, updates, and the test timeline. She wasn't as insistent anymore. She knew she didn't deserve my attention. M stayed silent since our fight, and I couldn't care less. Then, finally, the day came. I was at work when the email notification popped up on my phone. My hands shook as I opened the email. For a moment, I couldn't even focus on the words. I forced myself to take a deep breath and read them slowly. Paternity result, 0%. I stared at the screen, letting it sink in. The baby wasn't mine. A weight lifted from my chest, but at the same time, a hollow ache grew in my stomach. I'd spent months preparing to be a father again, convincing myself that no matter how bad things were with Kay, I'd step up and raise the child. Now that responsibility was gone, but it didn't feel like the victory I thought it would. I left work early and drove home in silence, my mind racing. The thought of seeing either of them made me sick, but I knew I couldn't avoid this forever. When I got home, I picked up my phone and sent Kay a message. We need to talk. She replied within minutes, agreeing to come over. She probably thought I was ready to forgive her, or that I'd agree to raise the baby peacefully. But this wasn't about reconciliation. It was about closure. When she arrived, she looked nervous. I didn't offer her a seat. I stood in the living room with my arms crossed, waiting. She asked cautiously if everything was all right. Without answering, I held up my phone with the test results still on the screen. Her face went pale. She stepped back as I said I had received the results. Her voice trembled as she asked what they said, though she already knew. I told her straight the baby wasn't mine. It was M's. Her eyes filled with tears, but I felt nothing. Did you know there was a chance the baby wasn't mine? And still, you let me believe it because it was easier for you? I asked. She sobbed, but I stayed silent until she finished. When she finally looked up, she asked what would happen now. What happens now? I said. Is that you leave here and deal with your choices? I'm done. She opened her mouth to protest, but I raised a hand. It's over. Don't call me. Don't text me. You made your choices. Live with them. Defeated, she nodded. Without another word, she walked out. I watched her go, feeling a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. That part of my life was finally over, but the scars would take time to heal. I had my son, my job, and a future that no longer included her betrayal. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I could breathe again. Over the following months, I heard bits of news about them through family and mutual friends. M had started using drugs, not heavy at first, but enough to tarnish his golden child image. The same relatives who once praised him now shook their heads in disappointment. K, meanwhile, was living the reality of being with someone who wasn't as charming or perfect as he seemed when they were sneaking. I stayed out of it and focused on myself and my son. Work became more than just a paycheck. It became my purpose. I'd been at a small tech startup for years, but after everything, I poured my energy into it. I volunteered for tough projects, stayed late to meet deadlines, and offered creative solutions in meetings. Within 6 months, I was promoted to project manager, leading a team and handling key clients. The recognition felt good, but more than that, gave me financial stability and confidence to rebuild. With the promotion, I moved us into a better neighborhood and enrolled my son in a great school. Our weekends were filled with trips to parks, museums, and little getaways. Watching him smile, carefree, reminded me I'd made the right decision to cut K&M out of our lives. I also made time for myself again. I reconnected with old friends, hit the gym regularly, and even took up hiking. Life wasn't perfect, but it was my Nan that made all the difference. Then, about a year after the breakup, something unexpected happened. I met someone, let's call her, we crossed paths at a housewarming party for a mutual friend. What started as a casual chat about travel turned into exchanging numbers and daily conversations. Rachel was everything. Kay wasn't. Genuine, supportive, kind. She didn't play games with my emotions or make me doubt myself. She encouraged me, respected my boundaries, and had a passion for life that matched my own. We took things slow, but it became clear she was different. She loved spending time with my son, treating him like he belonged in her world without ever overstepping. Watching them bond melted my heart in ways I never thought possible after the wreckage with K. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had someone beside me who truly deserved to be there. Meanwhile, K and M's lives unraveled. K had the baby, but M was unreliable, making promises then disappearing when things got tough. Their relationship, if you could even call it that, was crumbling. His drug use had worsened and he was no longer the charming favorite. He'd become a burden. Kay was left to deal with the fallout. Family gatherings grew awkward, but I kept my distance. That wasn't my world anymore. Kay started showing up alone, avoiding eye contact and keeping conversations short. My mom, feeling sorry for her, urged me to talk to Kay, but I refused. I'd built something better for myself, and I wasn't going to risk reopening old wounds. News about K&M no longer shook me, if anything. It reminded me how far I'd come. Months passed, and life kept improving in ways I never imagined. Work was booming. The startup I'd joined years ago was growing fast, and I'd been promoted to senior project manager. I was running major projects, negotiating with high-profile clients, and earning more than I ever had. I even started saving for a family vacation with R and my son, something that felt surreal. Compared to a year ago, R and I grew closer. She became a steady presence I could rely on without second-guessing her intentions. Weekends were for hiking, trying new restaurants, and binge-watching shows after putting my son to bed. She'll fit into my life naturally. In short, I was happy. Then the news hit. M had been arrested for drug possession and trafficking. The family chat exploded with disbelief and disappointment. My mom called me, voice breaking as she tried to make sense of how her golden boy had fallen so far. I had no answer, and to be honest, I didn't care. M had made his choices and was now facing the consequences. Kay wasn't doing well either. I heard through relatives that she'd moved back in with her parents because she couldn't afford rent or bills. M had disappeared, leaving her to raise the baby alone. The weight of her choices finally caught up with her, and I couldn't summon any sympathy. One afternoon, I was helping her prepare dinner when the doorbell rang. I wiped my hands and answered. Kay stood on the porch, looking exhausted and hollow-eyed, as if she might collapse. She gave a broken smile and said, "Looks like you found someone new." I looked at her coldly. "Why are you here?" Her voice trembled. "I don't know where else to go. I need your help, please. I can't do this alone. I can't afford daycare or the bills. My parents are helping, but it's not enough. Emus Ganai don't know what to do." I felt nothing but the memory of her betrayal. She ruined my life, and now she wanted my compassion. "Let me get this straight," I said, my tone flat with sarcasm. "You slept with my brother, lied about the baby being mine, watched my life fall apart, and now you want me to fix yours?" She flinched. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "I was stupid. I didn't think I don't want to hear it," I cut in. "It doesn't mean anything to me anymore. Now you're expecting me to clean up your mess? You and M know." "I'm sorry, Kay, but I don't have an ounce of compassion left. I feel nothing but contempt." Tears streamed down her face as she begged again. "Right. For the baby's sake, they're the only one who cared." I shook my head. "I cared when I thought the baby was mine. He's not. You made sure of that." She looked like she might fall to her knees, but steadied herself. "I have no one else," she sobbed. "Then figure it out," I said. "Go to your parents. Ask them for help. Don't ever show up here again." She opened her mouth to argue, but I raised a hand. I told her to leave and never return. She stood there a moment, then walked away, tears tracking down her face. I shut the door and felt only relief. Back inside, I asked if everything was all right. I nodded, hugged her, and smiled. "Yes, everything's fine." As we finished dinner, I thought about how lucky I was. A woman who loved me, a son who was thriving, and a life that had only improved since Kay and M were gone. Their misery was their burden to carry, not mine. My job was to keep them out of my life for good.